I wasn't a huge fan when the series came back with Christopher Eccleston, because I didn't think it was as good as it should be. There was a lot of the classic stuff taken away. It didn't feel like the same show to me at all.
Yeah.
But the one thing I did congratulate him on, I said, but the problem thing is, Russell, you got an audience. You get to a point where you start recycling your own ideas and you start reaching out for old ideas and mashing it up. Why is the character suddenly chasing sex? That is a complete subversion of the character created by Sidney Newman. I think what you'll find, Russell T Davies just makes up what he wants to say on the hoof.
Well, hello everybody. A little glitch, but that's what it's like. Welcome to Philip Morris, Head of Television International Enterprise Archives Limited, specialising in missing, lost TV, film and radio preservation. You were last on Sensesphere, Phil, in January when we commented on the wake of Season 1, the Master thrown into the War Games and the general outlook for Doctor Who. This time it feels different. It's a one-to-one. We have had questions submitted by our viewers, and live throughout the programme we have had we have an excited Doctor Who fandom at the heated speculation of missing episodes returning, in plural, for the first time since you returned, Enemy of the World and Web of Fear. Now we've had the ruins of Season 2, the dummy spits from RTD, the delayed spin-off, and the Fear We Are Going into the Wilderness Years Part 2. So where do we start? Well, first of all, welcome, Philip, and thank you for coming on. This is going to be fab. And good to get you on.
Thanks, Brendan. How are you?
I'm good. I'm hyped up. I'm as hyped up as everybody. So I'll get rocking and rolling. So the first thing is I think it's due courtesy. And most messages I got, Philip, whether they were with a question or not, was to thank you for finding these two stories. God, is it 12 years ago?
Those Doctor Who's will be 12 years ago, yeah. But let me put something straight. I'm just a fan. I'm just nice. I'm just a fan. I don't live Doctor Who every day of the week, but it's something I love. It holds a special place in my heart. So anyone that ever says I'm not a true fan, I am a true fan. I've been a fan since 1970, and I've collected stuff since 1970. So, I am a fan. I'm a fan. I think as I've got older, I appreciate more the people that made the show, really. Basically, people who had no money but had a hell of an imagination. And the things that matter the most, which I always say with any program, is the script, the story. Yeah. Those older stories, the fans always say to me, but the stories were great. The stories stand up, and they stand the test of time. And that's, I remember something Robert Holmes once said. He said, in 30 years' time, people will still be talking about Doctor Who. And they are.
They are. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've got your Season 7 Blu-ray collection, and watching through.
I've got them all. I've got them all. I'm very kindly sent them by the BBC, which is, it's really nice of them. You know what I mean? They do. We have a very good relationship, with the people that do the DVD range.
Well, that's cool. I mean, I wanted to start in the right place because I have to say we all know.
Start anywhere you like, Brendan. It's fine with me. Start anywhere you like. Go on.
The way I'm going to do it tonight. The way I'm going to do it tonight, everybody, is obviously you sent a lot of questions in about missing episodes and Philip's work, of course, and of course, Philip is good value. He is a Doctor Who fan. We will talk about elements of season 2, RTD, and the future of Doctor Who, as well as the missing episodes. And you have a role to play, everybody, in the thread, because I will now and again say questions from the thread, and we'll go live over to see what's being collected. But those that have been submitted, I've got them ready. And I suppose we will start with you, of course, and what's happening at the moment. It's what everybody wants to talk about. And if I go over to my questions that were submitted, one of them actually was about this. Have you, this is from Simon Charlotte, have you worked closely with Film is Fabulous? Do you think the speculated returns might eclipse your finds 12 years ago? I mean, do you work with them?
Okay, no. Hey, listen, great question. Let me come straight in on that. I don't work with the Film is Fabulous guys. However, they are friends of mine. I'm well aware of the work they do. And let me tell you, John, who's the main person at Film is Fabulous, he's a film collector. He's a film buff. He appreciates the medium. He knows other film collectors. He's very, very passionate about the preservation of film.
Yeah.
One of his most important posts that really caught me, I retweeted it not long ago on Twitter, was he'd found a lot of nitrate fairly, copies of some 1930 films which are being sent to UCLA in America. This is really, really important work, and it's. I know, I'm a fan of Doctor Who. I know the fans just want to hear about Doctor Who, but Film is Fabulous are a lot more. They are, engaging with film collectors who are, a lot of them in the 80s and 90s. Some of them have passed away, and the families don't really know what to do with the film collections. So John has, looked at this together with some other people. He's come up with a great idea, and he's running along with it. He literally, I think he's doing a terrific thing.
How does it echo what you do, or is it very different to what you do? So Film is Fabulous, I understand they're almost like a conduit between these private collectors and that. What do you do that's different or similar?
The difference with the stuff that I do is most of the stuff I do is overseas. So I visit TV stations. The work we do is we help with their preservation by supplying machines, equipment, expertise on certain things where we can. And in return for that, their old overseas programming is returned to us, and eventually that comes back to us. And when we get the time to do it, because obviously we're tied up in all sorts of other things, we catalogue it and whatever, sometimes a lot of it will just be stuff that already exists, but occasionally there's some stuff within collections that is missing, and where we can, we do return it. It's we have a really good relationship with the BBC archive, and we've never lost touch with anyone. We stay in touch.
Well, I've got Stephen O'Neill here over Wigan Way. Can you describe the moment, Phil, when you discovered episode? I was going to ask this, actually. I mean, even though it's 12, 13 years ago, how much of a build-up was that? I mean, obviously discovering them, checking on them, negotiating how you do the crossover, and of course...
Okay, so let's start from the beginning. So this is the process, yeah? The first thing you have to realize is you're going to be in for disappointment. Yeah. So you'll visit a lot of places. Let's say 85% of the time, you're not going to find anything. But, that place has been searched. It's what I always called, you'll see from previous interviews, I say boots on the ground. And also, you're liaising with people who actually need your assistance with their own televisual archives. So, I mean, that's really important. So when you say that, I mean, Nigeria thought, well, they bought these stories. So there are at the time, there were a lot of rumors around, this country bought that country bought this. And my idea was I wanted to go out there and actually see for myself on the ground how things actually were, not someone speculating from England, on something they didn't really know anything about. And just to see how things had moved. And if I give you some kind of a background there, probably in the early 80s, Nigeria held probably quite a lot of film at that time. but nobody wanted it. Nobody got in touch from the BBC. Nobody, nothing at all. And there was a huge station there, and the film started to go off. They didn't have specialist storage facilities, and as soon as that started to happen, they just got someone to come with a truck and get rid of it. Get rid of the majority of that. This was the station in question. I remember going into the prop store. It's an old story now. I went into the prop store and I said, "Can I have a look in here?" And they said, "Well, there's no film in here." And there was an old carpet there. And I rolled the carpet back, and there were 2 editions of The Sky at Night from the 1963. Oh. And I said, "Oh, there we go." So, and then I went into another load of, I think it was Troubleshooters or something like that. There was a missing episode of the Troubleshooters in there. So little bits and pieces from that place. But considering they got rid of everything, if you'd have been there 10 years earlier, you'd have found a lot more material. Because I remember I've still got the book. It's actually at Tier Base. Their program, their book, which contains all the program traffic records, which is a record of where things came into the country, where they left, and where they actually stayed at the station. So it's interesting to read that and see what the holdings were actually of the station itself. So when you say leading up to it, I suppose that's the question that the guy's asking. So you're leading yourself up for disappointment. You're following a very detailed visit to every station. How it was then, but how is it now? Is there anything still here? And you go into, you'll go to another station and there'll be nothing there. Then you'll go to the next station, might be a couple of bits and pieces there. Then you get to another station and there's a lot of things there, a lot of sort of 2-inch tape, 1-inch tape. I think there's a couple of photographs posted online when we had the Doctor Who's, because we photographed them at the time. And it was just, I think at first when you pull the first can down, you think to yourself, is there anything in the can? Because obviously in those days, people are trying to keep a television station running and they are changing, let's say they've got a cartoon on, well, they're getting the next can of film out the can behind them and then they're putting that in. The cartoon might go into that can. So they may not see the right contents in them. That happened a lot. We've found that a lot when we've catalogued. We've probably had a couple of thousand cans of film come back to the UK and we've had to catalogue every single one, which you can understand. The guys at Film is Fabulous, they have probably the same thing, the cataloguing. It does take a long time to go through stuff, especially when you're working as well, doing other things. Things have got to keep going. It was interesting, but once we confirmed that the content matched, it was one of those, it was a punch to the air moment, of course it was. You were like, the Web of Fear, the BBC have only got 1 episode, and here it is, well, at the time, it was all there. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 episodes. Enemy of the World, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 episodes. And it was, it wasn't like finding an odd episode. These were complete stories. And I was like, wow, well, what do we do now? And it was then it was, we engage. We already had permission in place to visit everywhere. And also to anything that we wanted to take, once we had to go engage with the head of the NTA, and then everything would be transported back, and that sort of thing. It was fabulous. It's not, to be honest with you, it's not something I really think of day to day. It's for fans, it's a really special thing, and for me too. But the special thing was getting it out there. The special thing for me even now is when I walk into. I had my youngest daughter's 8 years old, and we were in the DVD CEX, I think it's called. They sell the used DVDs. We were in there about a couple of weeks ago, and The Enemy of the World and The Web of Fear were on the shelf. And I said to my daughter, "They're the ones your dad found in Africa. They're the ones your dad found there." And he goes, "They're the ones you found, Daddy?" I said, "Yes." And just to see them there and knowing for fans they were available, there you go. They've been well run now by fans, but they're there for them. You know what I mean?
When I was doing the trailer for you coming on, and I was looking at Web of Fear Part 4 and the battle sequence, and you're thinking, they've now returned. A great battle sequence from 1960s Doctor Who with UNIT. There it is.
But you know what, Brendan? But you know what? that big battle scene was done on a program that was filmed 48 weeks a year on a shoestring. And when you think about the guy that directed that was a guy called Douglas Camfield,
Yeah,
you realize how good he was with the finite, finances they had on the program then. How they kept that quality up. It's amazing. You know what I mean? People look now and they go, "Oh, you wouldn't film it like that," but you've got to realize this was filmed there more or less every week of the year. You got a couple of weeks off, so it's amazing. You know what I mean? It's good stuff.
well, you can see, I mean, and I think it's important. I know you've got a bigger job, a wider scale, and we will cover some of that tonight because some of the questions are about that.
Yeah.
But Dalek Lives Matter, well done.
Anything anybody wants to ask, I'm more than happy to answer for them. I'll give you an example. This is something I've never looked into, but a friend of mine looked into, and they asked me, where did the Omni rumor start?
Yes.
And this was something I've always had stuck to me, this Omni rumor, because I'll be honest with you, the anniversary of Doctor Who was coming up back in 2012, 2013, and at the time, I wasn't too aware of that at the time. I was more working on it. What the idea was to get everything I could back, and then, we'll release everything.
Yeah.
But it didn't work out like that. We had to get this stuff out for the anniversary, so we went down that avenue instead. But as for the Omni rumor itself, the Omni rumor was started, and the evidence is actually there. Someone sent me the evidence, and I can post it online for people to see. The Omni rumor was started by Ian Levine. Ian Levine started the Omni rumor. He's posted online. We've got the posts. I have seen the evidence. He knows a man and everything else. Ian Levine started the Omni rumor. That's where that began.
Yeah,
it had absolutely nothing to do with me. I always play. Paul, Sue Molden will tell you the same thing. I always play my hand quite close to my chest. Something my grandfather said to me: never tell your left hand what your right hand's doing. Right, was always, and the reason behind that is, if anything, you know what I mean? If I'm in the middle of doing something or negotiating or trying to do something, I have to keep it. I'd rather not say anything, really. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? It's very difficult with the fans, and I understand the frustration, but I don't want to give them false hope. I've not finished what I'm doing, obviously. Yeah. We're still active doing things. I've got a lot of stuff that's still got to be catalogued. Film is fabulous. I'm aware we'll have an announcement for them. I mean, that's official. Please check the Film is Fabulous website. That's down to them. They'll announce that when they're ready in due time. But I'm quite sure the fans will be very happy with. With what they're going to do.
Can I say, because this is only the first part, everybody in the thread. Don't worry, we've got plenty here. But this is just the opening gambit. So Phil, obviously you know of what other people are doing. Of course, Film is Fabulous, like you say, are dealing with the private collector. You're dealing international. You have a good relationship with the BBC archives. But because you did get really acknowledged and famous for the fines you got, there must be possibly there must be private.
I'll be honest with you. I'm just an ordinary. I think I'm just an ordinary guy, right? Please let me explain who I am. I don't have a big ego. Yeah, I self-deprecate quite a lot of the time. Don't have a big ego. I'm not trying to stay out there or anything like that. If I've got something to say, I'll say it. But I'm just an ordinary fan. I'm not a fan who sits there 24/7. But I'm someone who grew up and loved this stuff. You know what I mean? There's good in Doctor Who. There's also some pretty awful stuff within Doctor Who as well. But it's, the show that I grew up with. I love it. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. And what I was interested in is once somebody, I might be living in my part of the world in Middlesbrough. You hear about Philip Morris has returned 2 classics. And once you know names, if I was a private collector, I might latch onto that name. And I was just thinking, have you over the years heard from private collectors because they know that you've returned Doctor Who before and your company does this?
I've had some in. I'll tell you what. Listen to this. Let's see if I've still got this. I had a message off somebody. This is not too long ago. I've been messaged by people who are collectors asking me, directly, would I, let's see if I've still got this. Hang on. Let's see. Possibly. Okay. Evening, Philip. This is 100% genuine. I've been approached by the agent of a very wealthy Doctor Who fan who spends serious money on original props, etc. He wants me to find a missing Doctor Who episodes in the hands of a collector and is willing to pay a seriously handsome amount for one or two or more, so we can just enjoy handing it over. Would you be willing to talk to the agent? This is 100% genuine and I've got other avenues to explore, but naturally you sprang to mind. Do let me know. Confidence guaranteed. So the quick answer to that, I never responded to that and I never would respond to that. The only people I speak to are the people at the BBC.
Yeah.
I do have contact with private collectors. This is true, but what they say to me is in confidence. If they have something, I know that they have it. It's in confidence. If they don't want to part with something, you can't sort of coerce them or anything like that. When they're ready to do something, they will.
So can I try this game for a second? Just for a second, right?
Try any game you want. Try any game.
Here's one. I mean, it's just right. Everybody's anonymous. You know more than I do, right? On that first slide there, looking from Marco Polo down to the Savages. Let's say I've got 20 odd years, 25 years left of life. Will I see any, from what you know, from all your research and everything and chats, are there any stories on that list that you think I might see again before I die?
I think you might see parts of some of them, yes.
Are you able to just give us a...
I wouldn't like to say, but I'd say probably maybe some of the historicals.
Because
maybe some historicals.
Yeah, because there's the Crusade 2, all of Mythmakers, the Massacres completely wiped, isn't it? And of course there's Marco Polo, and of course people are asking about there's Reign of Terror.
Well, hang on a minute. Why is the Massacre completely wiped?
Sorry, that's me saying that. Sorry, I'm saying.
Okay, so hang on. All of all of these were film recorded.
Yeah.
They were all film recorded. So many copies, so many prints from the negatives were made. Now, okay, so I'll clear the picture up here. So a lot of these things were sent back to different locations in London back in the day. Some of them that were sent back. And once the rights had expired, then they were thrown into skips outside. And when I say outside, if you ever venture past somewhere like Villiers House, the skips were in front of the building, which is next to a railway station. I do know that a skip company was hired there around about 1975 to take stuff away. I do know the owner. Not to say I know the owner, but I do know that the owner at the time helped himself to titles that he recognised. And that's my first-hand testimony of a guy that was working there at the time. So that means that those things quite possibly didn't go to landfill, or some of them might have them, others didn't. So it's a bit of a Russian roulette question where collectors are, as long as things haven't been disposed of in the meantime, of course. Anything could be out there. It's all being film recorded, so anything could be out there. But what you're looking at is, if someone's going past the skip and think film cans have gone in and things are in 25-minute episodes, that's where you get the odd ones coming up, sort of episode 2, 3, and 4, because certain people have picked those cans out. That's why, there's not a complete story. But, things were film recorded. And, we do know that, some private collectors do hold some Doctor Who. We know that for a fact.
I've got Bill Silver here. I reckon Film is Fabulous have found episodes that have never been rumored to exist. Right. Let's have a look. Right. Okay. I've got a bit more to throw in here as we go through. So let's have a look. Right. Okay. Let's just freshen it up for a second because we've got plenty on missing episodes. Did you enjoy the season 2 finale, Phil? And the clickbait of Billy Piper and all that jazz?
I did. I caught it on catch up because I'd been away. Actually, I didn't watch the episode through it. I really didn't watch it. I watched it and I thought to myself with Russell, I thought, you've absolutely run out of ideas. You're out of ideas, and you've just thrown this one up at the end. And I thought, how does the show come back from that? And I thought, if you were a writer, the only sensible way to come back from it is that the Doctor's been held captive somewhere for a number of years. He's been drugged, and particularly, it's a dream. It's never really happened. He's being held somewhere, and this is all. That's why this last scene happens, because that's literally the program jumping the shark.
Yeah. So from what you're saying, season 2, you really weren't feeling the pull to even watch it.
Brendan, did anybody?
No.
Anybody watch it? The thing is, Brendan, and so for me, I've got quite a young family. For me, Doctor Who, when I was younger, I watched Doctor Who with my mum, my dad, and my 2 sisters. We all enjoyed it. It was on a Saturday evening. It was a family show. Very different piece of television than anything else that was made by any other broadcaster. Very unique program with a lead character and a lead actor who stayed in the part more than 3 years. That became that character. That's who John Pertwee. Well, that was Doctor Who. And telling Tom Baker, well, who's this? Because the Doctor never changed. He changed every 5 or 7 years, like Tom Baker. So one guy was always, that was the character. Not like they change it out every 3 years now for an actor that's probably the same, that looks pretty similar, apart from Peter Capaldi. The thing is, for a show that's supposed to be unpredictable, it's become very predictable. It's become science fiction schlock. There's no reality to it. There's no, the scripts are, they're like they're done on ChatGPT, for goodness sake. They are really. But, I've got to say this. I feel sorry for Russell T Davies, because the last time I saw him was at the BFI, I think. And he did say to me, well, what would you do with it? He did say that to me. This is probably only a few months before, he took it on again. And I said, I think it's done on television, and as I said, maybe at the cinema or something like that, a big, start making it into films. But clearly, I think he's not done himself any favors. His first run was successful. As a television program, it was successful. And the thing is, to go back and try and repeat that as a mistake, he should have just gone, thank you for the offer, but no thank you, and left it where it was. And that way his legacy that, from the first time around would have remained intact.
I would have thought, I think it's that honesty bit. We're all Doctor Who fans, but if you feel as though your cupboard is bare and you've got no more ideas, just don't go back. But he did say, I played it at it was a clip from the Doctor Who concert, when they were announcing everything. And he said, because he heard a big streamer was coming in and all the rest of it, and maybe people who didn't understand Doctor Who, he wanted to, guide it properly. Well, fine and dandy, but the trouble is you didn't. What you did is you broke the rules, you broke the fourth wall, you had a musical, and suddenly it was like, well, I'm a fan, I know how to protect the show, but actually once I'm in charge of it, I'm the one who can break the rules. It's like, I don't know. I agree. You're supportive of him, and in many ways, we were supportive of what he did in those first 4 years. But
I think it's a very different Russell T Davies that's here now. I think when he first came around to do the show, I think he'd wanted to do it for a long time. And if you watch those early Eccleston episodes, he's channeling the character. He's writing character. He's channeling. You can very faintly hear, where Eccleston says, I am so impressive. That's a very Tom Bakerish line, the way it's thrown in there. He was channeling at that point. There was a lot of enthusiasm to get the show back. I know there was a lot of things going on behind the scenes with Chris Eccleston, which weren't very nice at all. I think that story needs to come out. But I think for the moment, I think it needs a rest. I think the show needs a rest. It needs people to start pitching ideas if it is to come back. And if it has a good idea behind it and a good script, then possibly come back as a series. I don't think so. I don't think in these days, I think maybe something different this time. Maybe some standalone TV movies instead. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe those 2 hours a piece or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've always obsessed about the episodic, but I know that if you went down that road, episodic kind of dies. But I know what you mean, a bigger deal. Now, I know people are going to kill me if I don't go back to missing episodes for a moment.
Go ahead, please go ahead.
Of course I will. But are you a good fan of Tomb of the Cybermen, Phil?
I am, and I remember back in 1991 when I bought it on VHS. I was so excited. I've still got my video. It was an amazing time to be a fan. It was amazing just to see that.
Well, like I said with Rebel Fee, when you had the battle scene, and there's some lovely scenes with the underground. There's lots of great scenes. It's great to get back. But of course, this was a great scene to get back from Tomb of the Cybermen, and then we'll get back to your missing episodes stories.
You think the Cybermen will help you?
I shall be their resurrector. Look!
The leader, the controller, Jamie.
We need your power.
You belong to us. Release the Cybermen and defeat them.
That's basically what you were doing, is hoovering up like the cyber. So I've already got another question before I even go to the submitted ones. Here we go from Geraint Williams here, and thank you very much. Phil, which story would you like to see returned or animated the most? For him, it's Marco Polo.
Power of the Daleks, I think.
Power of the Daleks. We were arguing about this on Monday. I did a missing episode show, and I think all three of us said Power of the Daleks we'd love to see back. I
don't want to see anything animated. I don't want to see it. I'd rather wait. See, the great thing is with some stuff, there's telesnaps that exist. AI is becoming more and more sophisticated. So with some stuff, I'd like to see how that develops. I don't mean like the stuff that I believe that Ian Levine's done. I've seen clips of that, and I just really no, thank you. It's that's not for me. It's not for me at all.
No. So okay, here's some more questions, and then I'll get my cheeky ones in as well. So the next one, let's have a look. Now we haven't quite finished with Web of Fiend. There's more to the story here, so I might as well wrap it up now. Andy Vinyl says, can you please confirm that Web of Fear Part 3 still exists somewhere? I understand it went missing through some devious means, but was Was it? Yeah. Anyway, you know the story better than me.
Let me explain. So we'd identified 12 episodes at the TV station. So what happened? I had to leave the station. My assistant was there. They were transported via the station manager to the NTA station with some other films. Now, my assistant said to me that the assistant manager at the station took 2 cans away. Yeah, one was an episode of another program. They took him to his office. He told me what they were. One was Doctor Who, the other one was something else. When I asked the station manager about them, his reply to me was, I don't know anything about missing Doctor Who. I'd never mentioned it. And in Nigeria, they didn't know anything about that. And as soon as he said those words, I knew that someone had been in touch with the station. You know, a fan had been in touch. I'd told someone back in the UK that, you know, we'd discovered them. And they've probably told someone else, probably hadn't meant to. And then I think some money was exchanged. Fortunately, the others, we got out. Because as soon as that happened, my assistant got these squirreled away because he thought, oh, hang on, I've got to make sure these don't move. And that's the story, basically. As I say, with episode 3. Is it still out there? Of course it is.
So this is it. You saying you were taught when you were a kid, you know, don't tell the left hand what the right hand's doing. And the point is, somebody knew that you were onto it and probably snuffled it under.
If we hadn't removed the other episodes when we did, they'd have probably disappeared as well. So we made sure that, you know, they were out of the way.
You see, this is it. You get the different stories about different private collectors. I'm getting sold a story now from Film is Fabulous and others that they're getting on these people. They don't know what's in their archives, some of them. But there must be others. But there's others, obviously, Phil, who are obviously still on the lookout to actually grab their version of a Mona Lisa to hide and just show their friends.
I've never really met anybody like that. Normally, film collectors, especially when you find, you know, Doctor Who's, normally these things travel in pairs. They're normally odd episodes. And most film collectors you'll find, they like feature films. They're not really into television. You will get some collectors who collect television. But not many. Most of them like features. Some of them like a lot of 35mm features. So odd episodes of Doctor Who, really, they're just something that they get along the way, really. You know, and you're talking black and white television as well. So, you know, it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't really hold up, that story. You wouldn't say anyone that'd say, oh, I've got a Mona Lisa or anything like that. I wouldn't have thought so.
Okay. Mr. Roy Wolf, can Phil say what the Something Else episode was taken along with Web 3 by the station manager?
Yes, it was an episode of The Troubleshooters.
Right. There you go, folks. Thank you. I mean, I have to say, I'm always grateful for Philip coming onto this little tiny channel because you're always honest. You play it straight, like you said, and you're great value as well.
I hope so. I hope I come across that. I mean, I'm just an ordinary guy. I don't have a massive ego or anything like that. There are a lot of stories that have been spun about me and all that. I really don't. But it's other people who normally come back to me and say, by the way, you know, this has been said and this isn't true. And by the way, this Omni rumor was started by Ian Levine. And then they start sending me screenshots and it turns out to be true. But you'll get people like Ian will come on and say things. I mean, I'd like to speak about other people here. I'm not the only person who's found Doctor Who episodes. There are other people that never get mentioned because Ian will say, well, I found this when he actually didn't. Yeah. Sort of, there are other people there that have found things. You'll find the names online, but they have done exactly the same as me, and they deserve the recognition that they deserve. You know, they really do.
Well, the thing is, I mean, your Lon Company title, it's about preservation of, it's a cultural history, isn't it? Cultural history.
It is. And cultural history is not just British cultural history. It's also, a country in Africa, could be Zambian, could be Ghanaian. It could be someone from, the Middle East. It's their cult. It's what they've got as well. I found the jobs fascinating. It made me laugh. I was in about 5 years ago, I was in Trinidad and Tobago, a Caribbean island, and we were talking with the station manager. And I said, do you ever show any British shows? And he goes, he said, Love Thy Neighbour. He said, we still run it. And I thought, Love Thy Neighbour. We can't even show it in the UK because people say it's racist.
Yeah.
But they can show it there and they still run it. And it's, it just goes to show you how programs travel.
Do you know my question to them would be straight away, do they show a trigger warning first over there?
No, there's no trigger warning out there. It's I was going to tell something that I shouldn't really say. I will say it. So I was over there, and I said, did you ever watch the BBC? And one of the guys says, big, BLACK. COCK, and I said no. that's how they look. That's how they speak about things, So it's, it's as I say, it's everywhere. I mean, Saudi Arabia. I was in Saudi Arabia, and we had a lot of film come back from Saudi Arabia, and I was asking. I said, "Do you ever run any British television?" And he goes, he said, "We still run Mind Your Language. We love it. It's translated into Arabic." And I'm like, that Mind Your Language. You just, you could never work it out that's what, but over there, they love that kind of thing. It's great, put it on during the daytime, and it's translated to Arabic, which is, something in itself. So, it's interesting to obviously leave the British Isles, go to these other places and see how things are shown. It is interesting. Yeah. It's a fascinating job. In many ways,
it sounds it, and I now and again text Phil because I know he's busy, and it sounds to me as though you're out and about everywhere all the time. Really,
I am. I'll be honest with you. It's probably the last couple of weeks that I've had off. I've been really busy this year. I've sort of been, been away for like 6 weeks, probably a week back at home with a load of work to do then, and then you try and spend some time with the family. And then you're away again. So I've been away quite a lot this year. It has been really busy. It really has. But but I enjoy. You know what I mean? It's the people that you meet really that make it such an enjoyable thing to do. Which is great.
Well, thank you, Geraint Williams, for this. And I know we're doing Doctor Who tonight. We also will touch other bits. But since you've just thrown it there, Phil, what's your rarest find apart from Doctor Who?
Rarest find. Now that's a good one. Rarest find apart from Doctor Who. I would say something I returned. It's been mentioned before, but it was a 1963 Sky at Night episode called Man Bases on the Moon with Patrick Moore, of course, and his good friend. What was his name now? Arthur C. Clarke. They were school friends, and Paul Venezes at the time was the producer of the Sky at Night, and me and Paul were good friends. And Paul got the episode back to Patrick, and Patrick was so over the moon with it. He said, ask Phil if there's anything he needs. Wow. And my cousin, Hilary, she had breast cancer at the time. She's since passed away now. But she was a massive fan of the Sky at Night, and she was going through a rough time with breast cancer. And he filmed a special edition of the Sky at Night just for her and put it onto DVD and sent it to me. And I went round to her house and she was there in the dressing gown. She was really, when you're going through chemotherapy, it's one of the worst things ever. Oh. And just that morning, she played that DVD and it starts, the Sky at Night, and he goes, hello, Hilary, how are you? Like that. Oh. And he runs into the program and she was just blown away. So if you ask me, it was a great find because two things. Patrick was absolutely overjoyed because it was a school friend that had passed away. Gosh. And not many editions of Early Sky at Night existed. And this was, if you were going to keep one, Patrick said that was the one to keep.
Wow.
And to get it back. So it made him. He also did that for my cousin who had breast cancer, which I didn't really ask for. And he said, I'll just tell him I'll do it. And he did it. And I didn't expect it. And I would say that. And I would say, from a human point of view, that's pretty hard to top, I would say. But then again, you know, I always say to people, I don't know what I'm going to come across. You know, I can get a phone call tomorrow and someone will say, oh, you know, you need to come and see this, and something else can turn up. So it can just happen like that.
I mean, look at the whole story you've given there. You saw it. You know, you just saw a bit of Sky at night, 1963, and then the next minute you see that the presenter of it is going, "That's the one." And then, of course, there's that lovely little side avenue of a story where basically a member of your family gets that lovely touch. And you're able to tell us now tonight how nice Patrick Moore was about it. You know, that's decent of him.
Oh, he was lovely. He was absolutely a beautiful guy, lovely, very eccentric. And, you know, I'm to this day, I'm eternally grateful. I'm a human being. I'm about people. I've always been about people. You know, it's difficult to communicate that sometimes. And because of the way the internet works, people tend to, you know, well, no, he meant that and he said that and he did that. And then the person you see here tonight, this is me. That's who I am.
No, well, thank you, and I'm loving it like everyone else. Now, Bill Silvers, I mentioned a few things, so I'll get this out now. And we may have mentioned bits, but I want to make sure we've covered everything. So, Bill Silver mentions the 60th anniversary. Philip Morris claimed to have tracked down 6 missing episodes. 2 were in the hands of collectors who were refusing to part with them. Could the missing episodes we've been hearing about this week be these 6 plus possibly Web of Fear Part 3?
Oh, well, that's a great question, but I can't answer for Film is Fabulous. It'd be very wrong of me to do so. They work incredibly hard. So I think when the time comes, probably John, maybe Sue Molden, and the people on the board at Film is Fabulous, when the time is right for them, they've checked everything, gone through clearance and stuff like that. Which please be patient with them. You know, they're working very hard. But I don't think you'll be disappointed. I think it'll be a fantastic thing. Absolutely.
Gosh, because I mean, yeah, right. You've got us salivating here. Let's see. God, it flashed up then it went. Thank you, Paul Ashworth. Phil, what's your favourite Dalek story? There's a quickie for you.
Oh, there's a good one. Okay, favourite Dalek story. That's a good one. That. Probably elements from a few of them. I'll tell you why, because I think by the time you get to Power of the Daleks, they took the storyline and turned it a different way. So it was something quite new written by David Whittaker. Probably Evil of the Daleks, I'd say, is a fabulous story. Again, but David Whittaker, again, who seemed to know how to write for the character of the Daleks, which is probably those two. Well, hang on, that's a difficult one again, because then you've got Genesis of the Daleks. I think it'd have to be those 3, but there are elements in all 3 I love. I love the way when you get to sort of Genesis of the Daleks, it was like an origin story. It was so well written, so well played that, I mean, we all know it's a classic. It's brilliant. And I don't think since any of those 3 have gone out, apart from the very first Dalek story, I don't think that's ever been topped. I don't think anyone's written a decent script which captures the character of the Daleks, but also shows us something new at the same time, which is important.
Are you one of those Doctor Who fans? You hear TV people and you hear Doctor Who producers say that you need Daleks in dialogue in short bursts. You need a bit more to the story because too much Dalek dialogue and it gets all a bit samey. You know, you've heard that argument.
I always thought with stories sometimes you need to turn things on the head. So can you imagine a Dalek story where you've got sort of a United Nations in space, and the Daleks are invited in because there's a space plague, and it's the only thing that's not being affected is the Daleks, and the Daleks, excuse me, in a strange way, become the hero of the piece. But while also still, we also know they're still the villain.
Yeah.
So you're taking one thing which you expect, and the Daleks are trying to do the right thing, but underneath, you know that there's something sinister under it. That's the kind of way to play things in, because it becomes unpredictable at that point.
Well, it's a bit like when we all saw Curse of Peladon and the Ice Warriors were playing it safe for a while, weren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Now, John Yulden, friend of the channel, Thank you very much. Thanks for finding Webb and Enemy of the World, Phil. If I bun you a
Listen,
few...
I've been thanked enough for Web and Enemy. Listen, Film is Fabulous have got some announcements to make. Please thank them. And please look up the other people that have found missing episodes of Doctor Who in the past. And if you ever get the chance, please thank them. Yeah, please thank them, because they are unsung heroes. Other people have taken the limelight from those people, and they've stayed quiet, and they need to be acknowledged for what they've done.
I will actually look out. I will do that, Phil. I'll look them out because I can see your point. If I bun you a few quid though, Phil, could you travel to Africa and bury the complete Star Trek Discovery collection for me?
I think it's already been buried, hasn't it?
Probably has.
I think it's buried itself.
John's obviously going through a bereavement therapy there, right? So yes, I know it's a tricky one, that one. So here we go again. So Graham Buxton, back in 2013, when Philip was searching and successfully found Enemy and Webb, was he aware of potential episodes in the hands of private collectors? And if so, did he make any contact with any such individuals? And was there a response?
Not in 2013. I have had contact with collectors I've already mentioned since then, but not in 2013. I was really too busy with where was I? 2013. I think Sierra Leone. Maybe 2012, 2000. I was in Sierra Leone. We were over there for the first time. We were auditing, whatever we could find there. So probably not in that time scale. Probably a couple of years later, we really got into the private collecting scene and were speaking to private collectors. But yeah.
So just on the, I mean, you can see how this works, Philip. I can't. Mr. or Mrs. Kerensky says, does Philip know this Web of Three Part 3, and who would that person ever return? Do you actually know where it's ended up?
We've got a fair idea, yes.
Okay. There you go, folks. So it's just a matter of... but yeah. And actually, we have to hope that if we, there's a nudge and a wink to various people. Film is Fabulous might be a conduit to kind of work with private collectors. That's what I'm hoping.
Absolutely. Well, Film is Fabulous is a conduit to work with private collectors to preserve. I mean, you should get John on sometime if that's possible, and he can explain it more. I mean, when I've spoken to John, when I think it was a couple of years ago, and I think it was a convention we were at. It was a convention we did a few years ago, and they were explaining the premise to me, and I thought it was a really, really good idea because, I mean, the premise behind it, a lot of collectors are dying. The family members are there. They've got a lot of, a big film collection, maybe a couple of hundred, maybe 1,000 films of all sorts of genres. And the family don't know what to do with it. And a lot of these things, especially over the period of COVID, were sent to landfill.
Yeah.
So to have an organisation there that is headed by someone who is passionate about film, that's the right person to be there. Absolutely. John's a film collector himself. He knows how to liaise with these people. So it's great. You know what I mean? And he's sending the right signals out there. So it's all positive.
Well, I'll continue with my little game and see. Can you remember that episode of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire when he coughed and he cheated? Remember that one?
Right, okay.
Yeah. So as I look at this,
I think you better getting Film is Fabulous on for
the coughs.
Probably for this, really. Get John on for the coughs. And see where he is. I mean, I have absolutely no idea.
Okay.
Well, I'm saying I've no idea. Officially, I have no idea.
But.
I'll tell you what. On that list there, you'd like to think episode 4 of Power of the Daleks 10th Planet exists somewhere.
Yeah.
You'd like to think so. Maybe some episodes of the Moon Base.
Oh, there was 2 left, aren't there? 2 left to find.
Yeah. Maybe the Smugglers.
Oh, a lot of people mentioned the Smugglers, that they were looking out for that because they said it was one of the rare William Hartnell on location.
Yes, it was the first story, I think, on location for him. I think before then, I could be wrong. Someone will correct me. I think it was a stand-in or a stuntman or something like that that doubled for him, sort of walking up the street. or something like that. I think it might have been the Reign of Terror, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, maybe Evil of the Daleks, maybe something like that might turn up, who knows?
I have a nasty feeling, though. I'm just speaking as on my own instinct that Power of the Daleks is the lost one. I just have that horrible feeling that Power of the Daleks, we all want it. It's the one that's lost.
Right. Okay, so if we go back to our story from 1975, Australia returned a ton of episodes to the BBC, which a lot of them have gone. So they were obviously thrown into skips. So the jury's out. It really is. The jury's out on that sort of things. That you're talking about with private collectors. Are the collectors still alive? If they are, then they're still within the collection. So it's just a matter of time, really. That's all. Just a matter of time.
Okay.
But I would say again, what happened in the 1980s? A lot of Doctor Who fans approached private film collectors. Have you got any Doctor Who? That was the favourite thing to be asking them, and private collectors just shut up shop.
Yeah.
So that never worked. It never would work. Private film collectors, quite rightly, are quite private. That's why the private film collectors, they're quite private about their own collections. But we must thank these people, because if they hadn't have taken these things, they would have gone to landfill. They would have been dumped. With their interest has preserved this stuff to this point.
Now, there was one about, this is an interesting one. Stephen Parry. It was suggested that some film material abroad was sent to landfill in the desert. Is that true? And was there any attempt to excavate it? And are you still travelling abroad? Obviously you are. And will you ever write a book about your exploits?
Okay, let's have a look at that. Yes, some programs were sent to landfill, yeah. We recovered some stuff in the desert that had been buried with the JCB.
Whoa.
We recovered that. We were with it. We were within a few days. Everything was fine, to be honest with you. It wasn't a problem. I am still traveling abroad. I am still going overseas. I have a lot of contracts and stuff like that I have to look after. Will I write a book? Yeah, I think so. I think if people would be interested in something like that, I'd be more than pleased to write a book. If there's probably enough interesting adventures in there. We're certainly not finished yet.
Now you see, because I'll just say this, Phil. There's another question I'm trying to find that links with that, which is somebody was saying, okay, is your search kind of over? I mean, you must have checked every TV station in the world now.
No. For the simple reason that a lot of countries have a TV station and then have relay stations. So they have 30 or 40 transmitter stations where film used to travel round into those. And when the system stopped, stuff would stay there and then things would be moved to another location. It's only when you actually go on the ground and you speak to people and they say, but hang on, there's in Jeddah, we moved that to this other station. So that's not in there. It's in the radio station because we left it in the basement there. And then you start putting the bits and pieces together. Okay, well, we need to visit there. Let's go and have a look. And then you'll go there and you might find something, So the landscape has changed over the years, but you know what people are like. Can we move that somewhere? Go and put it in that cupboard over there. And never open the door. And then someone will say, well, there's a cupboard over there, but we never open it. You'll open it up and it'll be full of film or something like that. And you take it all out and you catalogue it. So it's, as I say, it's a big jigsaw. If you were in one day, I'll send you a photograph of my office.
Right.
I have a massive map behind my desk that I had blown up. It's got pins in it. It's really low tech. Yeah. Pins in it with pieces of cotton that run from one country to another, which indicate all the way materials used to run all over the world from the 1960s right the way through to the 1980s. It's fascinating. I've been very lucky to speak to people that have worked at ITV Sales. I've been lucky to work with people that have worked at BBC Enterprises back in the day and how things end up. When I said, listen, I've worked out that this worked like this. Would I be right? Yes, you're right. That's exactly how it worked. Right. Okay, brilliant. Okay, I'm on the right track. Great. So there's been a lot of that along the way. You know what I mean? A lot of detective work, a lot of piecing how the systems work back in the day, relay stations, storage hubs, stuff like that overseas. So there's a lot to it. You know, it's really.
I'm imagining also there's an awful lot of swearing because the way I see it is, look, if you're pinning all your stuff on, you know, on your map and you're thinking, well, that looks like our next, you know, and you've got hunches and leads and all the rest of it, then a war starts over there. Then that country goes very kind of authoritarian and dangerous. Then that country is a closed shop. I bet you, if I listed Burma and all these countries, I bet you they're the ones you're dying to go in.
I've been there. It's not called Burma, it's called Myanmar. I've been there. I shared a flight with Aung San Suu Kyi when she wasn't a political prisoner again. I shared a flight. Yeah, I've been over there many times.
Is there a,
you know, sort of?
Is there a closed shop at the moment around the world where you still want to get in? No?
We have ways. We have ways of going into places. We have ways.
Gosh, you've risked it. You know, this is risky stuff, isn't it?
When you say it's risky, you've got to remember I'm from a background of I worked all over the world in the oil and gas industry, you know, for many years into a lot of war zones. I was actually kidnapped at one point in Nigeria, you know, back in my past. So it's, I suppose, for the ordinary person, I'd say yes, there probably is an element of that. I don't think I'd go anywhere where, you know, I'd be taking a political prisoner straight away. I'd make sure that everything was above board before I went. I knew where I was traveling to. When we were in Nigeria, I would never travel at night. We'd always travel during the day, then we'd go to a safe house at night, and then we'd stay there because it obviously it wasn't safe to travel at night. So we'd always travel during the day. And the same in the Middle East, you know, we always travel in the daytime, and then we'll stay in a safe house in the evening, and just to stay out the way.
Are you getting a bit peckish, Phil? There now, are you getting peckish?
I'm not too bad. I've eaten already, thank you. Are you getting a bit peckish, Brendan?
I'm going to help everybody out with their appetite with another little crazy cliffhanger. See where I go with this one.
I'm going to see where you go with this one. Brilliant.
One of the doctor's gadgets.
Don't want to miss the TARDIS, do we? The wounded thing in the capsule. Maybe it isn't the doctor after all.
Tegan is absolutely right.
Then come on.
Doctor, you're better.
Perpetual regeneration. It's life without end or form. Mordrin.
Quickly, we've got to take off. That man, I don't think he's the doctor. But he...
Doctor!
You're not the doctor.
You travel.
Doctor, that's him.
Welcome to my ship, Time Lord. I am Mordrin.
When did you last have the pleasure of eating a well-prepared meal?
Naughty.
Naughty. That's put me off spaghetti for a long time.
It was a funny moment, that Mordrin Undead, though, wasn't it? It was
Absolutely.
I've got loads of questions here. One of them is actually, I've already got it printed. You've seen it, but Mark Heaven here, he's champing at the bit. Please, can you elaborate on the episode of Callan that you announced in 2017 at the Starburst convention? Which episode was it? Were there more? And what happened to the print? Thank you.
That's a good question, that, actually. Right this second, I can't answer that. We do have some Callan, actually, that has to be catalogued. We haven't really got round to cataloguing it, to be honest with you. Whether they're missing ones, I'm not sure at all. If we get some time on this, I will come back to you on this, and I will confirm what we have with Callan. We just haven't had a chance to catalogue it at the moment. I think there might be some film prints, and I think there's also some stuff on 2-inch tape or 1-inch tape or something like that. I'm not 100% sure at the moment. I would have to check the holdings back at Tier Base, but we do have some Callan, yes. Whether they're missing on it, I'm not sure, because we get all sorts of stuff comes back. And as I say, until it's catalogued and we check it, then obviously we can check it against, you know, the holdings of an ITV.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for that. 27 Rifles. It feels like there's no more complete stories will be found. We have a hope that the private...
Why does it feel like no more complete stories will be found? Because nothing's happened between the last time stuff was returned and now. You know, it's, as I say, it's, I know probably some people think that, you know, I've been everywhere, I've done everything. I haven't. There's still more to do. There's still a lot of stuff out there. I think Film is Fabulous. You know, as I say, they'll deal with the private collecting circuit within the UK, which they're doing a good job of, especially with preservation and also helping, you know, fellow film collectors out. So that's really good. The overseas side, that's my side. So yeah, you know, as I say, normally I'm really quite busy, and then to take the time out to get stuff out there through cataloguing and something that takes a lot more time. But you know, we'll get round to it. You know, there will be more stuff to come from us in the hopefully the not too distant future. I'd like to get some more stuff out there, even just to create a bit of space, which we really need to do. But yeah.
Well, Duncan Evans, you sound like a member of MI6 now. You sounded like it's sounding good. Graham, Phil, you've got to do a book, mate. Lee Smith, we need a book.
I have spoken to someone about a book, and they keep saying to me, "Well, when are we doing this book?" And it is a publisher. It's just the time. The thing I find the hardest thing to do is time, because obviously I've got a young family as well, and I love to spend time with the kids. The kids are great. But I've got the work as well, and that work-home balance, and then doing stuff as well. But I'll get there, you know, like everybody else, you know, I will get there. You know, we'll all still be here. You know, we won't be all AI or that by then.
You want to do that? You can be RTD and I'll be Benjamin Cook, and I'll keep emailing.
No, please, let's not be either of those. Please, let's not be either. Please, I'm not a huge fan of either. Basically, do you know what it is? I'll tell you what it is with me with Doctor Who. I look at Doctor Who like Beatles records, right? And so if I was to write, you know, one of those, it has to be as good as what's gone in the past. If I can't be as good as what's gone in the past, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go into other people's work from the past and modify it and change it and make it something else that links into something that you know, someone from like Russell T Davies has created. I don't want to do that. I just feel it's disrespectful to the creators of the past. If they were still here and they said this is okay to do this and to edit it this way, then that's fine, but they're not. So I'm respectful of that. That's somebody else's work, so it should be left as such.
You see, you know, I got loads of questions. Some of them are a bit spiky and all the rest of it. And obviously,
hey, you want to ask me spiky questions? It's not a problem. But I'm quite thick-skinned.
One of the spikier ones was basically because it's all coming from, you know, you must have more and all the rest of it. And somewhere along the line, they think they've heard you say, if the BBC, you know, do certain things that are disrespectful, then I'd rather just sit on stuff.
I think I know what this is about. I did put a post out there a couple of years ago now, I think it was. And I think it's when I was watching some of the stuff they'd done with Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And I spoke to people at the BBC about it, and I said, I can't support this. I said, I don't really want to be involved. I don't want to support this. I felt really sad by what they'd done to the programme, which has been borne out by, you know, people that nobody's watched it, you know what I mean? And it became a total parody. It reminded me, if I go back to my past, I remember the 1980s, and Doctor Who went through a real bad patch in the 1980s. You used to go in the newsagents to buy, it was Doctor Who Monthly then, and you were embarrassed to go and buy it at the counter. Doctor Who became an embarrassment. It wasn't something that was, you know, it was a great piece of drama anymore. It became an embarrassment, you know, and a parody, and you know what I mean. It was, you know, through, you know, many reasons. The producer at the BBC at the time, John Nathan Turner, you know. I mean, the stories that have come out about him, you know, Ian Levine and all the rest of it since then are just, You know, they're just absolutely
Well, you know,
disgraceful.
when I mean, you're right on the nub of all this because you look at television and film history and all the rest of it, and like you say,
Absolutely.
but when you look at that, and yes, we're Doctor Who fans. It's had 62 years, and you know, part of my heart, Phil, is starting to say maybe because this has never happened before, it's just ran out. And I know people say give it a pause, give it a rest. I'm just wondering whether you do, like you know what you do with Miss Marple and Praro, that you could do it again from scratch. But why should we keep stretching it out as a continuing? Because it seems to be getting more diluted, more
Yes,
beige.
you're right. Well, let's get back to what the character is. The character is an enigma. Should never know who the character is in Enigma, and he answers a question with another question. That's who the character is. The second you go, well, who is he and all that, and start scratching at the surface, the character would never. The character as it doesn't matter when you're writing that character. The character's not changed in '63 all the way through. The Doctor's the Doctor, and he has to be well written. You know, he was written originally. He's an anti-hero, so he's not someone. I read about it now and I think, oh, he's someone that saves planets, but a little bit indirectly. You know what I mean? That's too predictable. Predictability in any drama, it's boring. You know, it becomes boring. This was an eccentric character. He was always played by an eccentric actor, William Hartnell. You know, he was a bit crotchety, and I think he lent on that a bit towards his time. Patrick Troughton, he had that face, didn't he? And that face, you thought, you know, it's a bit like a clown's face. I can't take it seriously. But through that, there was a brilliant actor behind that face. And you could see it fighting to get out. And, you know, he had some good scripts as well. And then everyone always says this about Doctor Who. They always say, oh, and Troughton saved the show, and it wasn't for Patrick Troughton, there wouldn't have been a second, third, fourth. Let me remind you, in 1969, the show was being canned. The only reason it came back is they couldn't come up with another. They thought it had run its course. It was cut to 26 episodes. It returned in full colour with Jon Pertwee. Now, it went from 5 or 6 million to 13 million viewers under Jon Pertwee. And I remember when those went out, and those shows were absolutely... The first colour image I saw on the television was the title sequence to Jon Pertwee. And we'd always had a black and white TV. I know people don't get this now, but this title sequence went from orange to green to some other colour. And just to see the colours, you were like, oh my goodness me, look at that. It's amazing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Pretty low tech by today's standards. But then, and he became rapidly very popular. Yeah. Rapidly. Jon Pertwee was on the serials, the kids' serials. He was on everything. He took that part and stamped on it. And for the next 5 years, that programme was on a high. The ratings went up and up and up every year. He left. Tom Baker came in, up and up and up, kept going right until the end. You know, I think Jon Pertwee is a bit of an unsung hero. You know, I look at it from the point of view, he came in, he built his audience up, he built it up with his producer, Barry Letts, and had the show popular for a show that was going to be cancelled a year before.
It always seems to be, by accident as well, and hard work, that when the pressure's on, that's the best time for Doctor Who, really. And I think they've got a bit smug arse lately. You know, big budget, you know, the world's their oyster. But 1970, they knew they were, you know, their feet were to the fire.
But let's go back. Let's look at the 1960s. We had Verity Lambert, John Wiles. How many producers did we go through? How many script editors did we go through? What have we got from New Who? Stephen Moffat, Russell T Davies, Chris Chibnall, 3 people in 20 years from the same group of people. Groupthink. Yeah. So we're not going anywhere. We're just using the same idea. Russell's come back in, and it's like he's retreaded his original ideas a lot of the ways, and you just look at it, you think it's not working. This is years later. Television moves on. You know. Well,
I was going to ask you very quickly about this. This is what I mean. This was me. I kicked off. The press phoned me on the last day after the last episode of season 2, and I just said, I think we've just had what I would have called EastEnders in space. I'm shocked, irritated, frustrated. People are contacting me how in absolute shock and horror at what's just happened. It's lazy writing, a hodgepodge of exposition, escapism, nonsense. RTD was throwing every toy from the Doctor Who box at the telly, hoping that some of it would make sense in the way of entertaining you. Do you know what? I couldn't control myself. I think you've controlled yourself, it sounds like, by just keeping an arm's length from it.
It's basically an act of desperation. It shows you've given up. I think by that time Russell knew that the game was up. I think he does know the game is up. He's in a very difficult situation at the moment. It's in some ways it's sad that it's come to this, because, like I've said before, the first series that he did, I didn't like all of it. But like I said to Russell, you got an audience. I can't argue with that. If you get an audience, people loved your Doctors. I can't argue with it. I know I'm out of touch. But when you come in and then you stamp it with, the Doctor's gay, he's an alien. Why is he interested? He's not even interested. He's asexual. He's not interested in that anyway. Then you start involving your own person. It was more about him and the message than good storytelling. But, he didn't have anywhere to take it. It should never have happened like that.
I mean,
it needed a new brew.
Yeah, I mean, there was so much going on. I mean, I've been lucky enough to got some media insiders now who are absolutely shocked. The abuse of Caroline Ford, really. I mean, she's a glimpse and then she's on the cutting room floor. I mean, there's you, aware of your television history, and you're going, how can we do that to somebody from the original programme?
He did it all the way through. If you remember, you saw Sutak was turned into a dog who was swung around with the dog lead and thrown into the time vortex. So these things the saddest thing is these were created by other people that were classics. I mean, I'm a big one I'm not really a big one for sequels because the sequel's never as good as the original, and you're better just keeping your original one, and that's it. Then it stands the test of time. Don't try and retread it so many times. It's like Davros, great character when he was created, but he's been overused so many times that, he lacks credibility now.
Now, E here says, I think Marco Polo and Reign of Terror will be completed because around 7 prints were made and many returned to be junked, so collectors had a few chances to pick up a few cans here and there. There you go.
Well, it's very true. It's very true. I can't argue with that. There's always a possibility.
There's always hope.
I can't say no.
We've got How Generous of Phil to say, please remember to thank others. I can only speak as I find, just like Phil does as well. And to be quite honest, I have been very grateful to Phil over this last year with his contact. He doesn't have to talk to me. I'm some little bloody midgie in the bottom of the YouTube poll. But, I totally appreciate it and giving you your time for free. I do. And it's great because you're sharing it with my audience and I can see they're really appreciate it. Lee Smith. Yeah, well, yeah, it did become a camp pantomime. I know.
Yes.
So let's have
It did in the 80s.
I know, it was poor Ken Dodd and all the rest of it. So let's have a look at another one here. Now, Peter McKeever, he's got a load here. I was wondering if Philip Morris might have an opinion on the possibility of collectors sending missing episodes back anonymously, either to the Beeb or to a trusted third party. Now, I know you've touched a bit on that. And then he says, I was checking.
That has happened, yes. That has happened. In sort of the early 80s, that has happened.
And then he says, I was chatting about this with a few other Doctor Who sci-fi spy fiction enthusiasts a few days ago. The most well-known of these is Callan, Spy Trap, Doom Watch, Sutherland's Law. We are sadly missing the Doom Watch episode with Liz Sladen. Do you know any more?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things that the private collectors have got. 60s Callan episodes. Especially I can tell you a story, actually. I can tell you a little story, and that's I was talking to one film collector from the northwest of England. It's about 4 or 5 years ago now, and his dad used to get a phone call in London, and this was actually outside Elstree Studios, which was ITC at the time. and they were throwing a load of film out. There were 4 skips outside full of film, and he drove down in his van from the north of England and filled his van up and took the films away. So do episodes exist from ITC? Yes, probably do, yes. As I say, these things were, as I say, this is back in the day, and then obviously these things go into film collections. So the right people are dealing with the film collectors at the moment. As I say, film is fabulous. John is the right person to do this. Definitely. You know, as I say, he's a film collector. He's also a film aficionado. So, yeah, he's the right person for this. I'll probably, to be honest with you, I've been invited to see them. They're doing the Blackpool Film Collectors Fair in a few weeks, and I've been invited down by Film is Fabulous to see them there. So I'll probably have a chat with them when I see them down there.
Okay. Plenty interesting stuff. Randy Howell, in the bicycle system, TV stations would forward a TV film to the next station in the chain. Were any third parties involved in this process? I'm really interested in the Africa connection.
Okay, in the bicycle system. Okay, normally a program would go out to be one show in, one repeat. It depends what they've negotiated. The film would then stay at the station because maybe the next sale hadn't been made. So a film would go, it may be, so not, this is just some of the time, a film would stop. And then when a sale was made, then it would move on, because otherwise you're trafficking programs that it costs money to traffic stuff around. So it would stay at a station. They knew where it would be. Then it'd be trafficked to the next station once another sale had been made. If a sale wasn't made, then it would be returned back to London to the BBC. If it was the BBC that was doing this, were third parties involved? Yes, there were other companies involved in trafficking stuff around. Many of these no longer exist now. We were lucky enough to. Some of these places were still around. Some of them still held film. We've long cleared those out. Some interesting things, some pretty mundane things, mostly features. But yeah, just to confirm what you're looking at. But again, that was back in the day. A lot of stuff, and if you go to South Africa, they didn't get television till quite late. So you used to get like a video rental shop, but you used to rent film from it, and that's what they used to do pre-television, because everyone had a projector back in the day in South Africa. So there was a lot of that sort of things, a lot of ITC stuff flying around there, sort of the Persuaders and stuff like that back in the day. Those sorts of things which were quite easy to get hold of.
Okay. So there you go, on that one, everybody. So let's continue. Adam Hickey. This is when we start getting a lot of fans online have claimed that you've said in the past, here we go, you see, that if the BBC does not do X or Y, that you would sooner burn them. Now, that's what you've already dealt with that one, haven't you? That's when you text.
Yeah, I've mentioned that already. I think basically it's just probably some frustration from me. When you see, what the BBC, the way they've treated, a property like Doctor Who, if you can't make the thing properly, and you're not going to please everyone, but if you can get an audience for it, and the quality's good, and you're selling it overseas, you're pretty much halfway there. But when you see something being used to propagandize something, which I think definitely Doctor Who definitely has, it ceased to become a program. It's not about it was never about the stories anymore. It was more about the message. Which is very sad. And you don't have an actor that's playing the lead part. You have an activist. So it's just sad. I think what you'll find, those comments from me were just frustration. You think to yourself, you're trying to, preserve, like a lot of other people do, who do the same thing that I do. Film is Fabulous also. You're trying to preserve cultural heritage that people, if you take a program like Doctor Who, the producers, the people that work, again, we talk about behind the scenes, that created those programs, had the imagination, the writing, you're trying to preserve some of their work. And then to see, future people squandering this, I think it's just frustration, really. It's a lot of frustration.
Well, you've got Rotary Engine here. You say, what's the percentage, Phil, of stuff found in colony countries like Canada, Hong Kong, Aussies, etc., versus places like Africa?
Oh, okay. So Africa, I think, was the final destination for a lot of stuff, especially from New Zealand and stuff like that. They would send. You see, I think the highest fee was paid by Australia, then New Zealand. Then everywhere else, the fees were like, it was £3 or something like that to show a film. So the films they were kind of the last places to go. Really, Africa for some of these prints. But I mean, there were other places as well. It wasn't just Africa. You've got the Middle East and stuff, places like that.
Okay. Now, I've been, I know, and you've been very good with Film is Fabulous. I mean, this is my last slide of the missing ones. I mean, a lot of these have been animated now, which is a shame. And you think, these aren't the ones, Invasion, we need 2 more. Wheel of Space is a few more. Fury from the Deep, we really need to get that collection going again, don't we? And everybody's fearing it might be just Space Pirates. Space Pirates gets it in the neck, doesn't it?
Well, let me remind everybody, Enemy of the World got it in the neck until the full story turned up, and then everyone goes, oh my goodness me, it's fabulous, it's a great story, which it is. Robert Holmes wrote the Space Pirates. I think until some prints turn up, I mean, I know we've got 1 episode, but until some more episodes turn up, then I think people can make a judgment. If you ever read the book's pretty good. But obviously you need the visual.
How shocked were you when you actually saw Enemy of the World? Because I agree with you. We were all really looking forward to Web of Fear. Enemy of the World was the amazing surprise.
I loved it. What I wanted to see most of all was I wanted to see how Patrick Troughton played the 2 parts. I wanted to see the last scene in the TARDIS where they split the screen. They had the 2 actors together. I thought I'd love to see that. And I thought, there was one thing I was a bit disappointed with. I would have loved to have sat down and watched it with Barry Letts, obviously just before then. And it was his first story he'd done for Doctor Who, his first directorial debut, and before then there was only that 1 episode with the caravan in it, so it was pretty boring. So it's a great story, but again we come back to the same thing again: the script. It's all Doctor Who then don't have any money for anything. It's story led. It's a pretty good story. Whereas now you've got the other end of the spectrum where, well, we've got loads of effects, but we've got no story. And the effects that we're putting in don't make any sense, but, we're making it look glossy. But, it's, again, Doctor Who. To be honest with you, if you're still making Doctor Who now, it should still be about the story. It should be script. Don't put anything into production until those things, you've got the right people, and also you're aiming it at the right audience.
There seems to be, I mean, you've got that overview when you've collected stuff over time, and you can see that the writers were different, weren't they? It's a bit, I feel as though there's a bit of a sniffiness now that the 60s to early 70s stories, like sci-fi stories, like Avengers and all the rest of it, because the writers obviously went on all the shows, didn't they? And they really knew how to structure a yarn, didn't they? You can have traps here, and all the rest of it. And I think people have got sniffy about Terry Nation, sniffy about some of these writers, and yet they could tell a good 6 or 7 part story.
Terry Nation said something that I totally agree with. Terry Nation said, and people can knock Terry Nation, created the Daleks, Genesis of the Daleks. He's Android Invasion, great story. Okay, Terry Nation said this: if you want to create a planet and the rocks talk, that's okay, but you've got to do it in a believable way. And think about that. That's so the audience, the average audience member who's not a Doctor Who fan, it has that believability factor. It's done in a certain way. I mean, I'll give you a quick one. I remember watching the Time Warrior when it first went out. The Time Warrior, and when Lynx takes that helmet off, The first time that went out, my God, that was horrifying. And you thought, wow, like that. And it was like Doctor Who had taken another level up with its monsters. It was moving, you know what I mean? He was a new character. And the way it was done, the way it was played, and the way that he turned around and then took a couple of steps, then the sting came in the episode finished. But when you see that, when it originally went out, goodness me, the shock factor. And the makeup was so well done.
Yeah.
And again, we talk about these things again, script, good makeup, well done, well directed.
When did you? I know it's when we grow up, and sometimes as you get a bit older, you get a bit more cynical. But with your Doctor Who fan eye on, when did you think in classic Who it started just to kind of? I know we've mentioned the 80s, but is there a story early on where you thought, "Oh, this is a mishit. I'm waiting for the next one. I think
it started to get a bit untidy during Graham Williams' era. There were still good scripts coming. It started to get untidy. If you ever watch those episodes back, they're a bit untidy. There wasn't Philip Hinchcliffe's stamp. I think Philip Hinchcliffe. I've met Philip Hinchcliffe once, and when he talks about it, when he said it, when became a producer, he went down to see the visual effects people. He made sure he name checked everybody, because I think he ran a really tight ship. He would say to you, you know what I mean? Well, we need to do this. Can you do this? In other words, saying, I want this right. Don't let me down on this, because the show's hanging on this.
Yeah,
a very disciplined producer, that I don't think suffered fools gladly. And I think you need to have a tight control. When you're making a television program, you have to have a clear image of the audience. They went for 13 and 14-year-olds. The intelligent, that's when it was produced then. Where now it's goodness knows who they think the audience is. A vocal minority. Let's just say that,
Philip Hinchcliffe, when he started as producer, 29 years old. He was hungry, wasn't he? He was hungry, and on top of it, and obviously disciplined too. Wanted DC Reconstructions here says, have film collectors in Singapore, Hong Kong, Australia been contacted? People seem to focus on just UK collectors. Well, obviously, Phil is more international.
Yes, they have. Yes.
And you're saying, how long have you been doing this now?
It's a good question. I don't know, a lot longer than I could. It started for me probably, goodness me, it's a lot, maybe 20 years. It's a long time. It's when I first started and the interest came in. Yeah, it's probably 20 years.
So it's going to be a life's work thing. But are you saying that you can? Your goals, it must be strange, because your goals can be one tiny little thing you're looking for, but how can you see in your own self job satisfaction? Is it just collecting?
I think, well, it's not a case of collecting. It's a case of, I've always had goals, and I always keep myself focused on the goal. Once I get to the goal, I always find I've got another goal, and I go ahead again and go ahead again and go ahead again. So there are different things, it's not just a case of looking for these things, which we do. That's a byproduct of the main thing that we do with TIR. We're there to assist overseas stations. That's our main function. That's our bread and butter, basically. But on the side of that, we recover lost television, where we can.
The One Whovian 16, did you ever hope to find anything when going to different television archives, or did you just let what happened happen? Obviously, people say don't jinx it. What's your view?
No. Easy answer to this. So put everything back into context. When I started, everything was just rumor. Oh, this may be there, that may be here. And I wanted to bring fact to the fiction. I remember at the time, Ian Levine was going, oh, they sold episodes here, they sold episodes there. It was just absolute nonsense. Never happened. Yeah. Never happened. I do have the data. I've got the program traffic records from all these stations. I keep very meticulous records. So I started out with the intention of just putting the rumours to bed. This is not here. That is not there. But if we find anything along the way, it's a bonus. You have to go out with the expectation of failure. You have to accept that first. I may go over it and there may be nothing here. But there again, then I would never know. So I need to get it clear and then get a clear picture of what the actual situation is. That's how we originally went out on that thing there, And then we, no luck involved in it. It was just the thing that got us where we needed to be and where we are now. It's just hard work. It's hard work, perseverance, not taking no for an answer, meeting the right people, having the right people in the right places, showing them that you're enthusiastic about what you do, you're genuine about what you do. And, it just seems to work. So, we continue with that.
Well, what we don't want is anything like this happening. I mean, sorry about that. I'll get you back in a minute. There you go.
It's different. It's different, Brendan. It's different.
It's out there. It's out there. So I've got TARDIS here says, now, like when Enemy and Webb were returned in 2013, why was Marco Polo so strongly rumoured? Is this the Omni rumour thing or is this something different?
I would say that's the Omni rumour. The Omni rumour, if you want to trace its origins, go right back to Ian Levine. Ian Levine started the Omni rumour. Like many things that Ian Levine starts, he always claims that he was a script consultant on Doctor Who. Well, the truth is he never was. Eric Sayward, who was the script editor, actually says this, quite clearly. No, he was someone we used to pick up on the phone and maybe go through something that happened in the past just to confirm we weren't going over, someone's old story or something like that. And that's the end of it. That's where that started. The Omni rumour comes from Ian Levine. There are plenty of screen grabs that people have sent me that have shown me that that's where it started. It has nothing to do with me. The last thing I want is an Omni rumour. I just want to keep things quiet, and then if I've got something to say, I'll say it then.
Yeah,
but
I can see what.
Just my back out to people.
Yeah, I can see what you mean because once talk gets out there, George, you see, this is it. In a way, what we're doing is we're killing off some.
Do I have more BBC missing material?
Yeah, you're sitting on some. There's some behind you now.
Yes, I do. Goodness me, that looks like my one of my storage facilities. It's a lot cleaner than that, actually. Yes, I do have more BBC material. We've still got to catalogue some. No, I've never announced at every TV station. No, my search is not over, and I would not announce places where I've been either because we keep those.
I was going to say. It's not a question I will ask you because, of course, as you've just said about
Brendan, ask me.
Well, it's because Web of Fear 3 disappeared because they knew you were onto it, so to speak. So I get your point, which is saying I haven't tried this here because that means I might get the plane there. No, you know what I mean. There's the whole idea that okay then.
Yeah.
I know.
The problem you've got is for every 10 brilliant, well-meaning fans, you'll get the one that's out to cause a little bit of mischief, and you've got to be really careful. As I say, I'm passionate about what I do.
Yeah,
passionate about Doctor. I love Doctor Who. I'll always love Doctor Who. I am a real fan. I've loved it. You know what I mean? You can ask me anything you want about it, and I can tell you. No, never be in doubt about that. I mean, I was a fan that never had any money from the BBC, never had any money from anybody. I've done this with my own money to go out there. I've taken risks to do stuff. And if people want to criticize me for it, I've not a problem with it. That's fine. But that's what I do. I do it for the simple reason that I'm passionate about it. And I wanted the answers. And I thought to myself, well, what has been done? I can tell you, I can remember a conversation I had before I discovered web or anything like that. And I was planning things. And I was talking to some people within fandom, some pretty high up people within fandom. And what did I said, well, I'm going to try and do this. And they go, well, old boy, it's all been done. There's nothing to find, old boy. And this was the attitude I got. And I thought, well, okay, well, maybe there isn't. But, I'm going to try. I'm going to look. And it was what they meant it had all been done. A telex had been sent round, all these places around the world which don't even speak English. And, we'll do the answer anyway. No, they don't. They're like that. They're too busy trying to run a TV. What's this? Oof. That'll go in the bin. And you know what I mean? That's the reality.
What pushed you to change job? Because I remember seeing that Doctor Who magazine was it Sue Mulvin, the interview with, and you saw all the movie spools behind, and she said how many Doctor Who episodes we lost. And, as a Doctor Who fan of a certain age, you were going, oh my God. And that was a formative key moment to me. What made you jump into this industry?
Accident. It was an accident. Do you know what originally happened was, I must have been. I think I was talking on the missing episodes forum. I spoke to Paul Venezes, and I was working overseas at the time, and I was interested in this, and I thought, well, maybe I could do something with that. Then I spoke to Ian Levine because I thought maybe he could do something, but as the further you got with Ian, you realised that he's a very strange person. It's all about Ian basically, and I was, well, no, I don't really. Well, if you ever find anything, you've got to tell me, and you've got to return it to me. I return everything to the BBC, and I thought, well, that doesn't sound right. I'll deal with Paul. Paul's introduced me to people at the BBC archive. I think they're the right people to speak to. This sort of thing. So, no, I mean, it was an accident but the best things that ever happen in life are accidents. I ended up going to a TV station. The first one I visited, no, the first one I visited, I was working in Nigeria. Yeah. And I remember going to Nigeria to one station, and they said he did a few hours. It never went anywhere. And then I flew into Zambia, and they wanted some equipment, weren't interested in helping me with anything. And I had the machines transported out to them. And as soon as I did that, then the doors opened for me. I was allowed everywhere. And next thing you know, other stations were contacting me. So it was kind of a happy accident. And I've always been someone that's been interested in different things. If I find an interest in something, I'll see where it leads.
Yeah.
So I kind of all my background to traveling, the people I'd met, the information I'd got that I learned along the way, I just kind of took it from there, which was it was good. It was a happy accident, I think, really, how things started. But it was something I was enthusiastic about. I don't think without the enthusiasm I would have stuck with it. Not a chance.
No, not with all the knockbacks and all the rest of it and dead ends.
Well, you'll always find knockbacks. You'll always find dead ends, and you've always got to reevaluate everything you do. And you've got to get up, get yourself up, and go again. Get up, go again. Well, have you checked everywhere? Wait, there's more than one relay station here. Hang on, the relay station, the boundaries on this country changed. So where's the relay station that was supposed to be here? Oh, it's across the border now. Right, we need to check there. So it's going back over stuff sometimes to make sure you've covered the bases, to make sure you've checked those, because there could just be one relay station with 200 or 300 films sitting in there that you need to get them out and recover them. So as I say, you've got to keep it open.
And I think it is actually not believing what's on the tin. It's not believing the itinerary. It's not believing the list. It's actually visibly, you've got to check it. And there's no fast way of doing that, is there?
Absolutely not. No. Well, Film is Fabulous. That they have the same situation. They, I mean, a lot of their stuff goes through De Montfort University, where they have, but they've only got so many people that can catalog this stuff, and you've got to make sure the conditions okay. Is it what it says on the tin? So it takes time to go through stuff.
Now, this one, you've mentioned his name. I just, again, since you're here, I might as well ask this one.
Go ahead.
This is obviously another fan rumor that's happened. So at an event 2 years ago, Paul and Phil said that they knew for certain there were 8 missing episodes existed, right? Very soon after, Apple TV coincidentally listed 8 random missing episodes, complete with synopses. And you can see on the other side, Mythmakers 2 and 4, Smugglers 2 and 4, Highlanders 2. Can you see any context to this? Because, you know, people are adding 2 and 2 and going, you and Paul said, and then suddenly Apple TV do this.
I can't speak for Apple TV. I'm sorry about that, but not really. No, I think that's kind of looking for things that probably really aren't there. Again, I'll say whatever Film is Fabulous will announce. Please be patient with them. When they're ready, they'll make an announcement. They have a lot of work to do with cataloguing and stuff like that. John's probably just as eager as anybody else to announce stuff. He's pretty good at that.
Yeah.
But just be patient with them. You know, he's already made an announcement and said there is an announcement to make. So just be patient with them. They're doing a great job, and I'm sure everyone will be more than pleased.
It's a hard one, isn't it? If you say certain names like Doctor Who or certain programs, you've got the world's attention suddenly, haven't you? It's tricky, isn't it, to hold back when, they've got to do the hard yards. They've got to do an awful lot of...
Absolutely. And trust me, they are doing some hard yards at the moment. Absolutely. I'm really pleased they've managed to get charitable status.
Yeah.
Because it's an expensive business. It really is. It's expensive in the way it's time. You need people to catalogue stuff. But it's expensive, as I say, you know, with... You know, some stuff you might have to buy a film collection from a collector's estate or something like that. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of how they're doing it, but it's a good move for them with being, you know, a charitable status.
I mean, I know a lot of the followers on this channel have actually told me when they've sent money to Film is Fabulous. Since that announcement, it's grabbed an awful lot of attention, which is good. And I know I agree with you. We do need to support them, don't we?
We do. Absolutely. I mean, it has been a fair amount of time since anything's been recovered, and the only things the fans have had in the meantime are, you know, animations, which I'm not a big fan of animations. You've had these AI retcons that Ian Levine's come out with, which are going to be absolutely nothing like the real thing. Trust me on that one. You know, so you know it's good news. It is good news. I'm very, very pleased. I'm very, very pleased to you know, have some information about it.
Yeah, I'll definitely chase that up and listen very carefully. So I mean, I suppose what's your great quest now? Your holy grail? If you're like the Indiana Jones on the international scale, do you know what? Can I just clarify something? This Indiana Jones thing. This was somebody at BBC Worldwide that put this thing on me, and we've made fun of it ever since. Was he turned around to me and he goes, "Oh, you're a bit of an Indiana Jones, aren't you?" And I thought, well, probably, yeah, but not realizing that'd end up sticking. But you know, it's nice. I suppose it's nice to have the association just for a bit of fun. Yeah. But yeah, I never think about myself like that. Really, no. You don't have a rival company that you have to kind of beat on the plane to get it. You know. I don't think so. I don't think there's too many companies on trying to fly to Libya or somewhere else at the moment. No, absolutely not. So, but yeah. So I can see some people talking about, hey, God, they're all trying to be minor detectives. So, you know, I know you said earlier in this. I don't blame them. Obviously, you know, everyone, Doctor Who has a unique hold on its fans. I completely understand. So obviously when they're here, Phil has got some BBC stuff and that, but is this kind of what you said earlier in our conversation when you said you're still sifting through stuff, you're still archiving stuff, Yes, we've still, you've got to remember that, you know, it can take time from when I can be overseas somewhere, we catalogue stuff, we palette stuff,
We get stuff, stuff has to go through customs, it has to get sent back. We have to have clearances. So there could be months in between that, and then I'm somewhere else doing another job. And then stuff will come back, and then you're in for a short time. Some people will assist with stuff, being pulled into a film vault just so it's stored, everything's safe. But then you've got to catalogue it. There is a time scale to that. It does take time.
Rob Fellows, are you involved at any stage when material is restored for release?
Depends which material at all you're talking about there. The Doctor Who's, I wasn't involved in. To be honest with you, I know that the people that restore them, I know them very well. They're friends of mine. They still work on the releases now, so I get to see stuff now and again if I'm interested in seeing it. But I don't really get involved with the restoration, especially with the Doctor Who's. I've not got involved in those.
Well, here's a question for you as a classic Doctor Who fan here. Arthur says, what missing Doctor Who episodes are you, just as a Doctor Who fan, the most passionate about finding?
I think if you were looking at things from a completist position, you'd have to say 10th Planet 4, Power of the Daleks. At least part 4 and part 1, those two at the very, very least, for the simple reason that they complete the transition between the two actors. So they're there. I think if you're talking about a complete story, I like Power. I like the story of Power. It's probably a bit too long at 6 episodes, but I like David. I'm a big fan of David Whittaker. I love David Whittaker. I think he played a massive role in the creation of the program. So, huge fan of David Whittaker.
27 Rifles. How do non-BBC recoveries get out to the public now that network DVD is no more?
Well, there are many other companies now that have taken the place of network. I was very sad to hear that Tim had passed away. I knew Tim. We were hoping to do some stuff with Tim. That's now not going to happen, obviously. It's a lot of people are very unhappy about, network was a great thing. They put some great releases out there, got a lot of stuff out. But there are other distributors out there now that have got stuff, and who knows, we may even come up with one ourselves. That's something that we wouldn't really rule out. But we'll see. We'll see how that transpires. As I say, ahead. We'll see how that transpires.
So let's have a look. We've got I'm throwing bits at you here. Here we go. Let's have a look.
No problem.
Here's a tasty one. Well, were you worried about Shooty's knees when you heard about his knees and why he left? Do you know what? We know all the doctors and why they left. John Pertwee stories is funny about he maybe asked for a bit more money and and all these things. Tom Baker was gutted, wasn't he? And you go through them all. And actually, when you look at how long they did it, you were saying this earlier about John Pertwee being there for 5 years, and we had Tom Baker for 7. We had a really established period, didn't we? And it feels like prime ministers, we seem to have a lot of prime ministers nowadays, they last for a year. And doctors are the same. It's just, I don't know whether they're just more ambitious to get to Hollywood, whereas it felt like John Pertwee was very comfortable establishing this role. He's ambitious, wasn't he?
I think what you're going to find, Brendan, is when fans run the program, fans have worked this thing out that they say, well, the optimum time for a doctor is 3 years, but you haven't got the episode count anymore. So no, you don't even really get used to the actor now, and then the actor's leaving again. So it's many things have been set as well. The doctor does this, the doctor does that. Then it's not drama anymore. It's not, it's. At the end of the series, he regenerates. Well, why does he? Why can't he regenerate in the first series? Well, everything in a drama, anything should be up if it's a good idea to do it differently. It really should mix it up.
I know we're the same with this anti-hero idea and this alien doctor rather than and it being all about him. And let's get back to the story. How did you feel about when in this latest series, they had the Doctor go big on anger management, losing it. He tortured somebody for a minute. Now, I didn't like.
I think basically, Brendan, you're talking about that's not the Doctor, is it? The character, it doesn't matter who's playing him. The Doctor's the Doctor. He should be written as he was written. You know, when you're saying babes and all the rest of it, I just think you're getting away from the character.
Yeah.
You're getting away from it. You know, the character may grow old and fade away, but the character is timeless. You know, but you've got to put things in there that, well, why is he going to win this? You know, it's got to be credible. Good story that's credible story with real interactions that goes somewhere. You know, it's got a nice, good central plot to it.
You see, on the interesting front, and it not being about the Doctor, but he's just a bit unpredictable. That moment in An Unearthly Child when he picked up the rock, and people talk about it and going, he was going to kill a caveman and all the rest of it. And I thought, I know, but I don't want the Doctor to be always your friend. I want the Doctor to be just thinking of the bigger picture. But the trouble is, it seems I have my own little red line that when he tortured this lad for a minute as a hologram, I just thought, no, you've gone way, way, way too far. And the arc didn't finish either, so it was an absolute balls up. But yeah, I don't want the Doctor to be a friend necessarily. Are you like that? I kind of want them to be a bit aloof.
Well, so what you've got to realise is that this is an alien. This is an alien that spends a lot of time on Earth, but there's an oddness about them. They have an oddness about them, but also that they've got a warmth about them as well. Yeah, they can go from being happy to snap. Yeah. Know what I mean? To complete change. They have to be unpredictable. It's the unpredictability they have to be. You don't want a 20-year-old actor to play this. You want, an actor that's, maybe that's done something, got something to draw on. It's as I say, if it ever comes back, it before it ever does, it needs a good rethink to get back to what made it, at its best. It's different. The thing the BBC used to be was distinctive programming. This is not distinctive. It's not distinctive about anything. It's just it uses the name Doctor Who, but it's not. It's not the character.
It does feel like the 80s in the way that it lost confidence, and now it's lost confidence as in it is a unique brand, and it seems to be trying to copy some American, programs, and you're thinking, no, that's not. No. You shouldn't be copying anything. You should be just uniquely carrying on with what you're doing, and that takes bravery and a bit more confidence. But I think they've lost their confidence. I think they've just lost their way with what Doctor Who should be doing. And I thought it should always be pioneering, experimental. It takes a risk. Sometimes it falls flat on its face. The CSO just can't cope with the ambition of the story. That sort of thing. We were used to that, weren't we? But it just feels like to me now that they're just thinking of the shortcut, really, which is let's be a little bit like Marvel. Let's be a bit like this. Let's do a bit Star Trek.
That was always when Russell T Davies was there. It was let's make it like Harry Potter, which is what he was doing. Yeah. I could sit here all night and tell you things I don't like about New Who. It's not, I've never seen something where the TARDIS is traveling. They open the door while it's traveling. You know what I mean? And, hold someone's hand out in space. I'm sorry, but you've just totally, the audience that's watching at home going, this is nonsense. This is nonsense. What's this? People will not tolerate it. It has to be believable. It has to have edge to it.
And as Stephen O'Neill says, it needs to get back to the basics. It was an adventure in time and space. And it wasn't dominated by the Doctor's character. It was just the Doctor, as you said earlier, Phil, he doesn't even solve the whole planet's issues. He might just kind of a roundabout kind of resolve that local issue.
Well, the name of the program is Doctor Who. It's about that central character. That's why you get a star to play it. It's a star vehicle, Doctor Who. It's about him. anything around him, then that's it. I mean, but the character's the character, and it's like, the TARDIS is supposed to be unpredictable. We can't quite steer it, so we don't know where it lands. And what do we do when we land? We go to the console. Let's check the oxygen and radiation outside. We don't just open the door and run out. There's no credibility there. There's no credibility.
Do you find, because the media insider who talks to me says in his dealings with the BBC and on talking about Doctor Who, that they don't understand what they've got. That a lot of them don't like sci-fi. They like the money it makes. They're not mugs. They're happy to make the money out of it, the merchandise, and all the rest of it. But they really don't know what they've got. And he explained, it's that this Oxbridge mentality, sci-fi seen as a little bit weird. Is it?
That's fine. But at the end of the day, it's a drama. It's not children's program. It was always produced by the drama department. So the drama has to come first. Somebody like Stephen Knight at the BBC, who's done a lot of, Peaky Blinders and all the rest of it. And, the other programs he's done. Somebody like that, the Stephen Knight, he's writing James Bond now. He's doing the next James Bond movie. So, you know what I mean? But someone of that caliber with the right people around him. Again, don't go for a fan. Don't want a fan. Want someone to come in. Yeah, that's the past. You want the TARDIS. You want the Doctor. Get the character right. Make sure you've got the right writers and take it somewhere new. Take it somewhere new. Don't be the worst thing I hate to hear as a fan. Let's bring back the monk. Let's bring back. Why don't we create something new?
Yeah.
Why don't we create something new? I remember watching Tom Baker's first season. You had the Daleks, you had the Cybermen, but after that season, you didn't see him again.
No, I
didn't see it till like years later. Again, it was new.
Season 13 really did, get on with it, didn't it? From Zygons onwards, you just had Crinoid a lot.
New. Yeah. And there are plenty of good ideas out there now. The series is based on the whole of time and space, and there are a lot of good stories to be told out there.
It shouldn't be limited to just what we've had. Well,
But at the end of the day, not just for fans. A fan will go, "Oh, you brought this back. That's marvelous." The average viewer will be going, "Well, what's that? I don't understand that. Why is that?" Then they're going to switch over. So first of all, good drama. Get a really good actor to play the lead in it. Really, really go for it. Go for what those other producers got. Get someone who's a little bit of an eccentric, someone left field, not someone who's a name. The right person, and run with that. But go in a new direction.
You've always sounded passionate when you've talked to me, and when I've seen you on different interviews. You are a diehard Doctor Who fan. I know you are, and I've really enjoyed these 2 hours. I know the thread's been on fire, and I'm fully appreciative of it. And
hey, anytime, listen, I can do another 2 hours if you want. It's not a problem. People want to ask me questions, anything they want.
Well, if they've got questions, honestly, I could go to town as well. I've been intrigued by so many things, but really, I should do you a favor and let you go, shouldn't I? Really, 2 hours is good. You're a dad. But I really, really do appreciate you doing this. And of course, I will ask you in the future.
No, well, it's always, Brendan, it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Absolutely.
I know.
Absolutely.
Well, and so I'm grateful of your time. I know it's family time as well. You're back and so.
The kids are in bed. It's fine. The kids have gone to bed. They've got school tomorrow, so it's not a problem.
Well, did you know I was a teacher once? No,
I do. My wife's a teacher as well, so I'm well aware of the teaching profession. I get, I get told about that all the time.
Well, your wife will understand this one.
Really
your wife will understand this one as I do. When sometimes you're trying to wrap up, all of a sudden the class suddenly asks loads of questions, and this is what's happening here. Hello, garbage. Thank you. What would Philip say to Peter Davison back this time as a showrunner? Also, thank you for being here today. I've given out links to your ex. the Peter Davison thing's interesting, isn't it? Because Peter Davison suddenly gives interviews and he just sounds like the wise old sage of Doctor Who and talks so much common sense. And sometimes I'm thinking if there was a future production team, do you know, I would like somebody like Peter Davison to kind of just be on the panel. I don't know, because I think he's got a good instinct, a good acting instinct, a good directing instinct. What do you think?
Peter grew up with Doctor Who. You know, he watched Hartnell and Troughton. They were probably his doctors. You know, he probably understands where it's come from. Of course, he understands. I think Peter said when he was casting the role, he thought, "Well, I'm not right for this, but I can't pass it up." You know that's for sure. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think if someone thinks there's a good idea there and they approach the BBC, and I'm fearful of one thing here, and that's what will happen is it'll come back and it'll be another fan from the same clique that gets involved again, and it will not revive or move forward. And there are wonderful writers out there. The guy that wrote Foyle's War loved to write for Doctor Who. Never been asked. You know what I mean?
I kind of always want to go back to that Philip Hinchcliffe period, Verity Lambert. They were hungry. They were hungry to prove themselves. They had to prove themselves, otherwise they were out in their ear. And I kind of think Doctor Who needs that. It needs somebody who will take risks and everything's on the table. And I think some of these safe pairs of hands who've been there and done that, I don't want for Doctor Who. I do think it needs somebody who might actually do something that all of us hate, but they take it in a new direction, because it'll need that. We don't know.
I'll be honest with you. I think, to be honest with you, fans want to see a new direction. They want to see new things. They want to see new experiences, but they want the character of the Doctor shouldn't change. You know what I mean? The face may change. They want to feel the character's the same. You know, the TARDIS should be everything that's ever been from 1963. Not this Peter Cushing crossover. You know, well, it's just got loads of knobs on it and all the rest of it. It needs to be credible. The first thing the series had, the most incredible thing, is the TARDIS. And the TARDIS needs to have that wow factor again when you're taken through the doors. Not the police. When you get inside, you're not in a police box, you're in the TARDIS. The outside is this battered old box. It's battered. That's how it was always described. Not this gleaming, shiny new thing. You know, it's this battered old box, and inside you've got this, these roundels, which I think it's not something you can ever get rid of. It should feel, a fan should. I always think that things are better, rather than bring things back, things are better represented in objects. So if you get inside the TARDIS, someone should see something from Patrick Troughton, but the average viewer wouldn't see it. But the fan would go, "Hey, that's the same TARDIS. That's Patrick Troughton's TARDIS. That's John Pertwee's TARDIS. It's the same machine, I can see." Because these are things that are little throwbacks that the average audience member wouldn't get. Doesn't mean anything to them, but to that fan, there's a little throwback there for you. You know what I mean? Only that you can see, but it doesn't. It's not to do with the storyline. Storyline's going in another direction.
As Phil Owen says, hey, it needs to be the ship again, not a magic wardrobe. I mean, when you saw the William Hartnell, the original set before that.
Absolutely. I still think it has a wow factor to it. When they walk through those doors, there is a wow. And the way that script is written, where I think he says, "Oh, I can see that you don't understand, but I knew that you wouldn't." The way that's written, it's so powerful. Like the first Red Indian, they saw the first steam train. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he says, "Oh, you'd insult us." He goes, "Insulting you?" He said, "The people of my, the people of my planet, have made time travel, a game for children." The way that's written, it's sweeping across. You know what I mean? That's what pulls the audience in. This is credible. This is good drama. This is credible.
And I love the fact that because he did that takeoffs, as he called it then, unplanned, he couldn't actually navigate, could he? So in the end, they didn't know where they were when they were on Skaro. And I love that. And I feel as though we're missing something because now they wave their magic sonic screwdriver like Harry Potter. They sniff grass. I never knew Doctor Who did this. He sniffs grass and goes, "Oh, it's 1604." And you're going, "What?" That sort of
and it's nonsense. It's basically poor writing. I haven't got an idea, so I'll just say this, and I can get away with it because if you were in any other drama, people have got, "This is nonsense. What is this? Turn this over." It needs to be, again, we'll come back to it. You need a solid script. It needs to be credible. Like Terry Nation said, you want to make the rocks talk on a faraway planet, that's great, but it has to be done in a believable way.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing.
Because I feel as though we're missing all those lovely little scenes, like John Pertwee and Katie Manning in Day of the Daleks, and he's having a bit of wine and cheese, and they're having a chat. And in those scenes, you learn so much about those two, and some great dialogue actually about the Blinovitch limitation effect and all that stuff. Whereas now we're in a race to get to the reset, and then next adventure next week, and I feel as though that element of story writing we need back. We need those lovely quiet scenes that actually do a lot of the hard labor.
I think during the biggest letdown during New Who is they didn't bring in a lot more writers, good writers, that would have taken the show forward, and they didn't do it. They kept it to themselves. One or two writers, the same old faces, sort of been around for a few years instead of really. I mean, I always look back at Terrance Dicks. For me, he's a big hero of mine. I was very lucky to meet him on a couple of occasions, and you've got to take this. Towards the end of Patrick Troughton, this show's going to be cancelled. He's the script editor on it. Did he leave? No, he knuckled down, doubled down on the scripts. The scripts for sort of John Pertwee's fit, they were better. And for the series after that in 71, they were better again. They weren't doing as long as stories, and they went back to 4-parters and 6-parters, but they were better again. And he was the key for bringing new writers in, Bob Baker and Dave Martin. Yeah. Massive fans of Bob Baker and Dave Martin. Stories like The Claws of Axos. What a fabulous! Imagine doing that now. Fabulous story. It's just as relevant now, with energy and stuff like that, as it was back then, during that energy crisis. So he brought these people in. He didn't have to do that. He could have gone on and worked on something else. He didn't. He knuckled down, stayed there for another 5 years till John Pertwee left. Then obviously went on, came back again as a writer because he had things to add in. Then The Brain of Morbius, stuff like that. Other stories that he wrote, State of Decay. So but that was lost. That was lost. The saddest thing is when John Nathan Turner took over. Anyone that worked on the show in the past, he just blocked it. Yeah, he just wouldn't let them in. And from somebody who didn't understand scripts, because the reason John Nathan Turner got the job, because he was a production unit manager. Yeah, and he knew how to manage money. So they thought, well, he'll make sure it doesn't overspend. That's the reason he got the job. He didn't understand script or story. That's why, luckily, they had Chris Bidmead there who did that. Tom Baker's sort of last season, the stories were, were quite strong. But that's why when Robert Holmes got his chance again, he absolutely threw the kitchen sink with Caves of Androzani, didn't he? To say it was. I remember that going out and thinking, this seems like different. Remember the opening shot of like seeing the planet and then the TARDIS materializes. Yeah, and it was like something from the 70s again. It was, it had that same quality to it, and by the end of it, we all knew it was a classic. It really was. It was, it had pace to it. I was watching it, and it was a good story. Where again, we've got Graham Harper directing. And he just went for it. He took that material, he went for it. Yeah, brilliant. But it was a flash in the pan. I think it was more by accident than anything else. It was Eric Sayward who brought Bob Holmes back. He thought, hang on, we've had great writers here. Why aren't we using them? And John was sort of, well, we're not. I don't want anyone back, which was, very, very strange.
Are you one of those who would argue that Doctor Who needs to go back to scaring the kids, or do you think no, it doesn't need to?
It did used to scare the kids. The only thing I've never understood is people go, "We used to hide behind the sofa," and I've always thought, "Well, our sofas, it's up against the wall. Who can get behind the sofa?" I've never, unless you live in a stately home, of course. I've never really understood that one. It did scare kids. I don't think, but I think it frightened kids in a good way.
Yeah,
You know, you were watching to see what was going to scare you this week. That sort of thing. I think, yeah, cool. All the factors that worked in the past, those elements still work now. The cliffhanger, I think, is something you've got to keep.
What was it? What was the thing that really got you as a kid? I go on about the Sea Devils. The Sea Devils freaked me out coming out the water. And
I'll be honest with you, I can answer that quite directly. When I was young, I must have been about 3-4 years old, and I think it was Roger Delgado's Master who scared the life out of me. And I'll tell you why. I used to have a nightmare as a kid that I was tied to a production line in like a baked bean factory or something like that, and I was going up this conveyor belt all tied up, and he was standing there laughing. And then just before I'd wake up, I'd go off the edge. There was like a cliffhanger. I had this reoccurring dream. So I think he was. But when I watched the episode, I've not watched them for a while. When I watched them, he actually doesn't play it like that. He plays that character. You can understand why people loved it, because he was likable. He wasn't, the sort of twisting my mustache villain. He was quite likable. He said, "Well, he came across as if, well, I think what I'm doing is right. It might be evil to you, but I think it's right, and I want this. I want this Kronos crystal because it's going to give me this power. So I want." But there was a credible character behind it, beautifully played by Roger Delgado. You know what I mean? Priceless actor, fabulous.
Well, it was amazing.
Out of me.
Yeah, because he did have that quality, didn't he? Because Sea Devils is one of those. He has that kind of. He's quite dangerous in it. He throws a knife at one point at the Doctor. And yet there's a kind of grudge. It's really strange.
I think the idea behind it, I think it was revealed later. It was never done like this, but he was actually going to be revealed to be his brother. Whether it was from a different mother or something like that. And I thought that was a great idea, because the way brothers have that love-hate relationship. Yeah. And one's really, we find out that the Master's probably more clever than the Doctor in certain ways. As people are, everyone's got, things they're good at and some people aren't so good at. I thought that was a great, Russell T Davies threw it away, you know what I mean? But I think that was a great idea. I think if that's what the people that created the Master wanted, I think I would have, explored that a bit further. Definitely.
Well, we've got, so who's this? A lead of hoo-ha. Are you able to, here we go. Are you able to give any hints on missing episodes you know to exist? I think what you've said is film is fabulous. Let them breathe.
Absolutely.
And all will be revealed. Stephen Braddock, he said that there's going to be a podcast by Film is Fabulous at the weekend.
Yes, there is. That's correct.
So I we should. I totally respect what you're saying, because they've done a lot of work and they need to leak out the information on their terms.
Absolutely.
But fair question. We have to try.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's worth a try.
But I understand. Well, I think we should depart and let you have a bit of a rest. And thank you to the thread. Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Philip. I hope it's not the last time you come on.
Absolutely, it'd be a pleasure to come on again, Brendan. Anytime.
But and now, do you know what I have to do now? Me and Garbage Who, everyone giving a subscription. Garbage Who does my AI with the Who Pets. We finish with a classic cliffhanger, and nobody knows what's going to happen. A Who Pet's going to die. That's a guarantee. But I'll see you after the credits for a second, if that's all right, Phil. But here comes.
Look forward to it.
We said we want a cliffhanger. Here we go. RTD wants Sensphere shut down. Those Who Pets have had the last hand up them. Time to die.
This is giving me the creeps. This never happened on Finger Bobs. One by one, they're all mine. They don't like it up 'em. All this walking, I wish I had my Benidorm motor scooter. I have it!